Hi, and welcome to the Gameplay Movement. I'm Exception, and here on Modern Monday we're going to be talking about a small game called Nidhogg. It comes from the independent studio Messhoff, and it's a 2D side-scrolling action game where you play as a small man with a sword. It has a very retro feel to it, but runs very smoothly like a modern game. The reason I want to talk about it, and the reason I think the game should get more recognition, is because while being very simple in its mechanics, the game actually has a bit of depth to it, but it's still approachable for anyone. I want to talk about Nidhogg's simplicity. There are only actually two buttons that you use in the game, one to jump and one to attack, and that simplicity allows for the player to get creative in how they approach every situation. You start every level with a sword, and you have a couple of choices on what you can do with that sword. You can either use it to combat the other enemy and parry away their sword and hopefully stab them. You can throw it, which is an instant one-hit kill, or you can not use it at all and maybe take your enemy on in hand-to-hand combat, or if they still have a sword, maybe kick them or dive kick them. These basic mechanics of kicking, punching, using your sword, sparring with the sword, throwing it, are really simple, but because the game is, for the most part, one-hit kill when using the sword, you have to play a bit of mind games with the enemy or the AI in which you're fighting against. And that's where the depth comes in for Nidhogg. You have to make quick decisions on how you're going to approach the enemy. You can either throw the sword at them in hopes that their sword isn't high enough to defend it, or you can quick sprint at them, roll, and get up and stab them in hopes that they won't be able to parry your attack. There are countless numbers of ways you can approach any situation in order to get past that enemy. And because the single goal of the game is to just get past that enemy, you don't even really need to kill them. If there are platforms available, you can outsmart them, draw them closer to you, and then jump on the platforms, run right by them. Or you can force them to jump over you in certain situations when there's holes in the floor or moving platforms. It should really go without saying for a game like this with such a simple design that it really relies heavily on the AI. When you're playing in single player, you're obviously playing against just one other AI character, and I really think that the guys at Messhoff pulled it off really well. The AI are actually really smart and take advantage of your stupidity and capitalize on your faults. So I would approach every situation as smart as you can and hope that the AI doesn't outsmart you. Because when they outsmart you, they get the go-ahead arrow and can advance. And they only have to get past you 3 times in order to get to that last final stage where they actually achieve victory and get eaten by that giant demon worm. Yeah, that giant demon worm, if that's not enough motivation for you to beat all the enemies, I don't know what it is. It's pretty cool. As of right now, the core gameplay for Nidhogg is pretty great. It's a lot of fun, but it could feel lacking for some people who don't have anybody else to play it with, or the fact that there's not really that many people playing online at any given time. So the single player took me probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours to complete, but it was pretty challenging and fun, and I was screaming at the monitor a little bit when those guys outsmarted me. And the last 3 guys are actually pretty hard, in particular because their characters flicker different colors, making them kind of hard to see what they're going to do with the sword. And the $15 that this game costs as of right now, where you can either buy it on Steam or directly through the website, which I will link below, that $15 is kind of on the brink of what I would consider a good value for because of the fact that the game doesn't really come with all that much. It has a single player that lasts about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and the online multiplayer with not a lot of people playing it. If there were a lot more people playing it and you could just hop into matchmaking and get matched up right away, this game could possibly have endless value. But because there was only 2 to 6 people playing, and it took a really long time for me to get connected, and even when I was connected, there was a couple times where there was a lot of lag, I could see how that $15 really doesn't cover it. But if you are a person who's a fan of local competition, and you have an extra controller or a buddy who has an extra controller for your PC, this game could be a ton of fun on a Friday night with a couple of buddies, because the game does ship with local multiplayer, and it is a ton of fun. I recommend it, that even if you have buddies who aren't really into video games all that much, or maybe you just want to show them off and kick their butt a little bit, this game's local multiplayer is a ton of fun because everything takes place on one screen. There's no split screen or anything like that. And because of that one hit kill factor with the sword, it gets pretty tense. It gets pretty tense when you're playing with a buddy online or against an AI in the single player. Getting back to that $15 value, based on what you've seen in my video, it might seem pretty good to you if you have a couple buddies or you're just interested in a new game that has some pretty fun mechanics and has a little bit of depth to it. Nidhogg is probably for you. I know I've been playing it off and on for the last week or so, and I've definitely gotten my dollar value out of it. But for some people, you might pick it up, you might play it for an hour, and you might not like it. Maybe wait for the next Steam sale or something like that. But $15 isn't really that bad if you get 2 to 3 hours out of it, for me at least, you know, considering that the going rate for a 2-hour movie is about $10 for a movie ticket, or, you know, $20 for the Blu-ray or whatever. So 2 to 3 hours for 15 bucks isn't really that terrible, but I would definitely invest in it if you have a buddy with an extra controller, or you have an extra controller for your PC at home. Thanks for watching my video. I'm Exception. This is the gameplay movement. This is actually my first video, this Modern Monday video, where I talk about games that were released this year. I'm also doing another video series called Throwback Thursday, where I talk about important games in the past that I think need to be recognized for their gameplay mechanics and their role in the gaming industry. So if you like my video, please like, subscribe, yada yada yada, you know. But if you want to see me talk about any games that are upcoming or from the past, please post a comment. You can get in touch with me on Twitter, Facebook, and even Google+. I'm actually getting pretty fond of Google+, so if you think that's the best way to get in touch with me, go ahead. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed.